Welcome to episode 168 of the Necronama.com. Holy shit, that feels weird after being gone so long. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And I hate this movie. I love this movie. This movie's okay. Oh, this movie's so funny. This movie is great. This movie is boring as shit. This movie killed me. This movie made me hate movies. This movie deserves every award. Not to discount my opinions in every universe, but that's all we have time for.
And I am Don Guillory. And I got to tell you, it's good to be back because I've been suffering from mad cow disease, Ebola, spontaneous dental hydroplosion, leprosy, flesh-eating bacteria, government-created killer nanorobots, Count Chocolitis, and most importantly, I had a serious case of hot dog fingers. But it's good to be back. Good to be back.
And what about you, sir? Who are you, and why are you on our show?
So I'm Anton Cancre. I'm on the show because y'all make bad fucking decisions in your lives, but I appreciate your bad decisions. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I educate people in correctional facilities, and I annoy people as much as I can. And goddamn, did this movie make me weep. So if I'm not crying by the end of this, y'all lucky.
I don't know. That sounds lucky in itself. So we'll look forward to that part. So it's been a very long time since we've done this. I don't know how anymore. So I'm just going to roll with it and fuck things up, and it'll be great.
Hold on a second. Welcome.
Oh, shit. I can't. It's been too long if we missed that. All right. So, Anton, you picked the movie, man. Sort of, kind of. You made a Facebook status, and then I said, hey, you should do that. So what is it about this movie that you love so much, man?
Wait, maybe we should introduce the movie first.
Everybody knows what movie we watched.
Well, I mean, I'm sure, but
Gremlins, right?
No, it's Gremlins 2.
Oh, shit.
Had the,
Oh, fuck. Yeah. If there is an episode on Gremlins 2 and you don't invite me in on that, just like I said before, if you ever do any fucking Italian horror movie and you don't invite me on, I don't care who your main person is, just for flavor texts. If you skip me, I'm going to be up in your shit. But
I'm going to let you know right now, Anton. Gremlins 2 will never be covered on this show.
Fuck you,
Anton,
Don.
I will do it with you without Don.
I swear to God, I watched that movie as a kid. I was pissed off watching it as a kid. I renewed, I guess, an interest in it because of Key and Peele when they did the movie pitch for Gremlins 2. And so I was like, well, I'll eventually get around to seeing it again, watching it again, because now it's kind of like, this was supposed to just be so fucking stupid. I should go ahead and watch it. But we're talking about everything, everywhere, all at once, as opposed to some weird cocaine-fueled fever dream that was Gremlins.
Okay, wait a second. So you're saying that cocaine was not involved in everything, everywhere at once?
Oh, I think something else was involved in making this movie.
Wait a second. So they got a hold of that dude that used to be the person for your acid, and then he got locked up, but somehow they managed to have him make their shit?
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I think happened.
Fuck! I want to be involved with whoever, apparently I need to work at A24 because they can get the good stuff.
You're all waiting for me to make a joke, aren't you?
I am.
So Tommy, what is it about the film that you love so much, man?
Who the fuck is Tommy?
Tommy?
There's James, there's Don, and I'm Anton, motherfucker.
I think that's in the other universe. Your name was Tommy.
Okay. There are some part there's a whole thing with my family of everybody down the line was named the same name, and if you go back to the original, it was Anton, but there were Tonys involved because Ellis Island existed, and they were like, no, that sounds too fucking foreign, and so we're just gonna say Tony. But anyways, Why did I pick this movie? Because fucking hell. First off, so many goddamn feelings. Like, I got advertised like Michelle Yeoh kicking people in the ass. Yeah, I'm gonna do that every moment, all day, every day. But then I watched it, and yeah, like the first like 3/4 are exactly what I thought I was getting, and then they made me feel things. And I mean, I like to feel things, but it's hard to feel things because I'm a dude, and I was told I'm not allowed to feel things. So, whatever, fuck it. All hail the fucking bagel. That's
well, wait. Before you get too far away from that, you bring up a really good point, which is, I'm just going to say, typically within Western culture, you are taught, don't fucking show any emotions, don't feel anything. If you're hurt, suck it up, that type of stuff, to where, and this is my moment to shit on boomers. I apologize. And I'm just, the generalization associated with boomers, as far as like, they didn't have time for us, economic reasons, political, social reasons, whatever. They didn't have time for us. So whenever we had a complaint, whenever we had a problem, for Gen X, speaking for Gen X, I should say, we just, aside from being feral, we weren't allowed to fully emotionally mature, because, I mean, especially as young boys and men, because it was seen as weakness if you showed anything. The whole thing about boys shouldn't cry, you shouldn't talk about your feelings, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. That's girl associated behavior, to where you can't. I mean, you have so many fucking guys still around that are in need of therapy, or need some counseling, or just need of somebody to talk to, and then they just lash out violently, and we're sitting here trying to figure out, why are we still having these issues when the problem has been there for a while, as far as what is causing a lot of this stuff, or at least something we can link to it. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's entirely where I sit. Like, the fact that this movie hit me on such a guttural, deep down emotional level, like, it's really overwhelming. I, like, the moment they became available on Blu-ray, I ordered it, and then I had to wait. Like, I got it in, and I was gonna sit down and watch the movie because I had heard about it. I wanted to see it in theaters, but just, like, there was a little, like, that whole fucking COVID trauma thing, and, like, was concerned about crowds, so I didn't. And I'm kind of glad I didn't see it in public, because, yeah, there was just that overwhelming. And it's not negative overwhelming. That's the thing with this movie, is that I didn't feel bad crying. I wasn't crying because it was rough. I was crying because, like, shit, the mom in here reminds me like a motherfucker of my mom. Like, a lot of the same kind of training that she went through, how she was taught to be, the like emotional abuse she endured as a kid, that was just like taught to be normal. And unfortunately,
right.
Like, when my grandpa died, and I was telling people, like, so my grandpa's dead, but he was a fuckhead, so fuck it. And I had people in my family get angry at me. Like, I had some of them cut me off for a bit because I said that about their dad. But he was a fuckhead. He was a dickwad, and he fucked up his kids. And my mom was fucked up from that. And she didn't know that she was fucked up. She was just doing her best. And so I'm seeing this mom doing her goddamn best, but still, like, carrying that weight of all the shit that was put on her as a kid. And, like, that hit hard as a motherfucker. So, yeah, I will talk about this movie all goddamn day because of that experience, and knowing that, like, seeing somebody else that understood not just what my mom went through, but understood what I went through as, like, a secondary recipient of that. It's fucking amazing. Like, I love the people that are involved in this movie.
I feel very similarly about my grandfather, who died 4 years before I was born, so I never met him. But every story I ever heard was abuse, alcohol. Like my grandmother, the sweetest person I've ever met in my entire life. One day she accidentally said to me, "Just because you're married doesn't mean you can't be raped." And holy fuck, man. So I pissed on his grave repeatedly until she died, because, I won't piss on her grave, and
Right.
she's still stuck with him. But so that hits me pretty hard, man. And I didn't think of the mother that way, but as you're saying it, I'm just like, oh shit, So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of generational trauma that's witnessed, and with you pointing that out, Anton, yeah, it is the whole idea of this idea that the guilt, the expectations, whatever you want to call it, that the father places on her. And then you also have the cultural thing. So, but again, I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I would just say in general terms, you've got the aspect of that father that's having these expectations of his daughter, or just the idea that, oh, I'm so sorry, it's a girl when she's born. Just throwing in that thing as well. The idea of you're wrong from the beginning. There's something wrong with you. And having to constantly try and prove yourself or do something to get that person's approval, to the point where you I don't even want to say you mess up your daughter, but you strain the relationship that you have with your daughter to the point where you're so worried about what other people are going to think about you based off of her, even including your father, who already has a certain opinion about you and your husband. But the fact that, hey, she's gay, she has a girlfriend, and I am going to go ahead and tell my father, this is her friend. And I immediately thought about so many instances of people I knew who were in relationships, and they had to dance around the fact that they were in a relationship with someone that their parent, uncle, family member, whoever would not approve of. So they would have to say things like, this is my friend or my roommate, or this is, a friend of mine from work who came down wanted to hang out for the weekend. And I'm just sitting there, even as a teenager, I'm like, just fucking tell them. What's the worst they can do? But then you're not contemplating. I mean, as far as what Joy's perspective is, you're not seeing all the trauma and everything that they had to live with for all those years, having to deal with those expectations, having to deal with that I guess the societal guilt, or at least the not conforming to the social norms and mores, that you're just going to be a further disappointment to them for whatever reason that they decide you're a disappointment.
And that's one of the things that struck me with this. And to be honest, until you started bringing this up, I didn't have this memory attached to this movie until now. But I remember a time. There was a point that my mom was working at a fairly prevalent company. And she, while she was single, because her and my dad got divorced when I was pretty young. And to be honest, that was a bad fucking match. They should not have been married in the first fucking place. But either way, she found a dude that she was honestly she would occasionally mention him when she came home from work. There's this guy at work that's he's taking care of these things for me. He's doing this shit. Dude seemed fucking awesome. Even me as a 10-year-old was fucking bring that shit home. Okay? Right. I want a new daddy. I want a daddy that's not in prison. Let's get some good shit. Okay? So, but the whole thing was because he was a black guy. That she knew her parents would not accept him. And there was a time later on where she dated a guy that was Iranian. Yeah. And there was some shit involved in that, and that dude ended up being a shithole, but it didn't have anything to do with him being Iranian. It had to do with him being a shithole as a human being.
Right.
But that matters because she was terrified to say anything to her parents, and it ended up coming real. When she said something to her family, her own brother referred to him as, well, I'm not going to say the full term, but there's sand and then a word
yeah.
I'm not going to fucking say. because we all know the one that comes after that. That he couldn't believe his sister was dating one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, first off, like, okay, to be honest, like, if you wanted to be bitchy about shit, both them was married when they started dating each other. So there's some shit to talk about. If you were gonna bitch, maybe just say, like, they were married. But also both of them were in shitty relationships. And then they ended up being shitty things about him as a person. Call that shit out. He's just a fucking dickhead as a dude. Say, like, look, I can't be okay with my sister dating this dude that's a fucking piece of shit. But instead, all that he focused on was where the dude was born.
Mm.
And that doesn't matter. That had no difference. I can guarantee there's lots of, I'm sure I haven't known too many people from Iran, but I'm going to say there are lots of good ass dudes from Iran. She just happened to fall into a shitty one. But call him on his shit for being a shitty dude.
Mm-hmm.
Not that kind of... So this whole generational thing of, like, there are these people from these places. Or is this kind of person that you just don't like? Or, like, I mean, I talked shit about my grandfather, but to be honest, the person that had the more impact on my mom was her mom. And everybody in the family talks great stuff about her mom. And I remember how terrified we were when she'd come over to the house because my mom was scared she would go into the bathroom, not because she had to pee, but just because she would go in there to see how clean you're keeping your bathroom so that she could talk shit on you.
Right.
My mom was so fucked up as a 30-something-year-old goddamn adult, raising 2 kids on her own, fucking her own ass job, taking care of shit, badass bitch. But she was terrified of what this one person thought if she went into the bathroom and there was some fucking dust in the wrong goddamn area of the bathroom. Fuck that shit. And that she couldn't or would not be willing to date somebody that she thought. Like, I could tell when I was a fucking 12-year-old, my mom was saying shit about this dude. She was attracted to him. But she was scared and was not willing to do anything about that because she was worried about what her parents said.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all fucking up your kids doing that shit. I don't even know what to say except go find a nice cliff to jump off of.
You see that, I mean, especially when we get introduced to the entire family, or I should say, the family that we get to see. Whether that's, I mean, the Wang family. So Evelyn, Waymond, not Alpha Waymond yet, but Evelyn, Waymond, Joy, and then eventually Gong Gong, who's played by the incomparable James Hong. Like, I don't know what it is about James Hong, but if he's in something, I'm already curious. Like, I know his role is going to be really cool, or at least impactful.
Yeah, Lopan is a shit dad, but he's still fucking Lopan like a motherfucker, so I don't give a shit. So sorry, back to what you were saying with that.
Oh, no, I was going to say, you start to see these moments of, I guess, a bit of a break. So Wayman has the divorce petition that he's, you know, you get an understanding that something is going on. So they're dealing with the tax forms and whether or not they're going to get in trouble because they misfiled something. And there's the idea of the dissolution of the family or dissolution of the marriage. Then there's also the estrangement between, you know, mother and daughter. And even further than that, I mean, you've got that extended estrangement that's taken place with Gong Gong and Evelyn, where it's kind of like, I have to do this because he's my father. He flew all this way for this party. And even extending, you know, this cultural expectation of like, we're having a party, we have to invite everybody. And this is something that's limited to Asian culture. I've noticed it with a lot of immigrant groups themselves. I would say it's more so something that you see with the immigrant story than you do with I guess American-ish type culture. Because my father-in-law has done the same thing. Like he'll hold a birthday party and he will invite half the town. It's like, we've got food, we've got music, we got drinks, come over, stop by. And some people will stop by. And what he pointed out when he came to America, I think it was for one of my daughter's birthday parties. I don't know, it was like her third or fourth. But there were some kids playing outside and he was going to invite them over. And my wife had to let him know, like, you can't do that here. And he's like, why? He's like, we've got a birthday party. There's all this cake, all this food. Why can't I invite some kids over? And she explained to him, like, Dad, it's going to look strange for a man they don't know to invite them over to his house for a birthday cake. And his response was, I hate it here. Like, why is that the first thing? It's like, I'm being nice. I'm thinking like, oh, there's some kids playing outside. This is what I would normally do. And within some of those cultural enclaves, those cultural neighborhoods, you will see that still take place. Because even when I was in China, like I was invited over to people's houses and my anxiety kicked in. I was like, no, I can't fucking go to your house. But it was one of those things of like, we're inviting you over. Please have a meal with you. Same thing with members of the Arab community. It's that same thing of like, we're inviting you to the house and we're not necessarily going to take a no for an answer. We want you to come over. If we're inviting you, we want to feed you. We want to see you. We want, we feel that you're somebody that we want to have in our presence. So you see, at least with Evelyn running around trying to get people to come to the party, of like how important she sees it as. One, it's a success for the laundromat, but then two, there's that connection with the community and other people have that connection with her as well. So I thought it was a cool thing that was in the background, but you still saw it taking a presence. But before I forget this, I apologize if anybody had an idea, but before I forget, the one thing that stands out to me even more before we even get into the story is just the representation that's permitted here. Because the Wayman is played by somebody who was part of my childhood.
Oh, God, yeah.
Data. K.W. Kwan. Yeah, he played Data in Goonies, and he played Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And he said that if it hadn't been for Crazy Rich Asians, and it was another film around that time, he's like, I would have never come back into acting. He stopped because he did not like the way that Asian people were represented. He didn't feel that there were going to be any roles for him. Didn't think there was going to be anything that was other than being a sidekick or a joke or, somebody's racialized, generalization. But he said when that movie came out, he's like, no, I need to get back in the game. And he's phenomenal in this movie.
Oh yeah,
in all the roles that he plays. But he's phenomenal because
first off, fucking Kung Fu Daddy-O. Okay? Yeah. Like those slips, like when motherfucker pulls out the, like, I know I'm jumping a bit ahead.
Fanny pack.
Like the fanny pack. Fuck yeah, that moment. Like shit, and when I knew, like when he put like the waterlogged whatever thing it was inside the fan pack, like I knew some shit was about to go down. I saw it off Jackie Chan. I know what's about to happen. Like, yeah, fucking. Oh, I was so happy to see him. And
did you guys honestly, get the nostalgia factor from that? Like the fanny pack for me reminded me of Data because he's always got all the stuff.
I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah.
But that's where I went with it. I was like, is that a reference? Whether it is or not, I appreciated it, and that's all I wanted to say. Go ahead.
No, there's that, but like, first off, like that was one of the first things when my ass was like complaining about I couldn't find a decent backpack or something like that when I was wearing dresses and couldn't like hang out at places because you don't got fucking pockets in dresses. Because ain't nobody give a fuck about people who wear dresses. But
what's up with that? Why don't they get pockets?
Yeah. I like to look good. And you know what? I like my balls to be well ventilated. And I don't give a shit who you are. If you think jeans ventilate your nuts, you're full of shit. So anyways, Donna Lynch was the one that like dropped on me that knowledge of like, well, you just need a fanny pack. That's all you need. And that changed my life forever. So from that, and then seeing dude turn that shit into a fucking, like, just wrecking dudes every goddamn moment. I still, like, I could go back to that moment in that movie daily and be so happy. Also, I kind of want to marry him. He's so sweet. Every look, like, the look in his eyes, like, I don't know if, like, dude is just that good of an actor, or I'm gonna just say he has that person in his life. And he channeled that in those moments where he looks over at her and just gives that, like, I know you don't know who you are yet, but I don't care what you are. I don't care what you think you are. I don't care what you've been told. You are me, and everything I am is in you. I'm invested. And just every time I see that fucking look in him, I melt. Goddamn. I told you I was going to fucking cry in this shit. I'm already fucking crying. So,
there you go.
Yeah. I will fucking marry Crazy Kung Fu Daddy-O every goddamn day of the week.
I hope he whips you with the fanny pack.
Oh, God. Please do.
For me, it's the scene kind of towards the end where he tells her, like, I don't know the exact words, but it's like, think this out before you make me believe there's a chance. And, like, his acting right there was just fucking great to me. But I liked that the whole thing, it was just like an ad for why you should hire him to be in films.
Right.
No shit.
Because he is, to me, the most different throughout it. Like, he does the most of being a different person in the different realities. It's not just funny. It really serves a purpose, and his acting really pulls through. And I didn't know what to expect. This is the first thing I've seen him in, other than those movies we've already talked about. And I can't judge off of that, you know? So when I watched this and I saw what he can do, I was like, holy fuck, I want him in everything.
No shit. He is just, I mean, that moment where he's dancing with the old dude in the laundromat.
Yes.
Like, there was that bit where, like, I don't even care which one of those two. Although, admittedly, like, I'm old enough, I could be the old dude, that's fine. Like, to have somebody take you in that moment and just, either side you're on, just accept you as who you are right now. We're just some people dealing with shit. All our lives suck, but right now we have a chance to just do something a little fun. Motherfuck, that moment hit like a bitch.
Well, it's that, and I wrote down some of the quotes and things that stick out, because you're talking about that part, right? But two out of several that I wrote down, one was Joy, when she points out, she's like, every new discovery is just a reminder we're all small and stupid. and that's one of those things where you start to realize where we're on a blue rock, you know, in the middle of the expanses of space. We don't know anything about anything. And here we are squabbling on this marble, on this rock, about some of the pettiest shit you can imagine. You know, like the planet's dying, but we're sitting here saying things like, pineapple doesn't go on pizza, you know, that type of shit. Or, which it does.
But also, yeah, that's an entire thing that we're very determined about that matters.
Yeah, but even the stuff that we can work
consensus of the cosmos,
right? Because even the stuff that we can work on, as far as scientific discoveries, historical discoveries, even expanding our understanding of language, of people, things like that, you quickly realize what you don't know the more you learn things. And it never goes away. And when I was teaching, and even when I'm doing tours, I always lead off by saying, you know, if you're a historian or if you're into history, you're taking a history class, there's always a research question that you have, and that is the important starting point. So when you have that research question, the goal is to answer that question. But in answering that question, you then find that you have another 10 or 15 questions that you could possibly answer in the future that you have not answered yet. And at that moment, you realize how much work still has to be done.
And I'm just gonna jump in with this. I had this in my notes because I'm a professional motherfucker. I know I've mentioned this before. Yeah, I'm professional. Homie, I'm professional. So, anyways, there was that bit or later on that dealt with kind of setting things ahead. And shit, I have my notes here and I don't remember where. Oh yeah, sorry. So when my girl starts off with her mission, finally, like, her dude sets up and, like, tells her, like, alternate universe version.
Right.
This is what you need to do. You need to fight against chaos. But ultimately, in the course of the movie, even that person that's bringing the wisdom that she didn't have is wrong. Because what she realizes, spoilers, like we give a shit about spoilers on here, is that embracing that chaos is what matters. So she's given that kind of quest that's subverted in the course of the movie. And I really dig that end. That's the big quest that's put off. Is like, come with me and live up to your potential. Or lie here and live with the consequences. Although I will also give credit to the fact that, like, her immediate response is, I will just lie here. Because big fucking mood right there. I would totally want to just lie down. And, like, if I have a choice, whatever's going to happen will happen. But, like, can I just take a nap? But
sometimes I feel that way at conventions. Like, I could just lay down on the convention floor and wait till morning and see if anybody comes to check on me.
That would be great.
But it all depends on how many shots would you need after that, though.
Well, are you talking shots at night or
vaccinations?
Because you have your espresso shots in the morning to make you get through that Sunday. Because we all had that Sunday. Or you have your other shots that happen on Saturday night that make you, that help you pretend to be a person around other people.
All right. So there was was another one that I had, and that was from. I'm just gonna say that he's my favorite character, but Wayman, or I should say, Wayman in his totality. Whether that's Alpha Wayman, Rich Wayman, whatever else is out there. The idea that he has this conversation with Evelyn and you talk about what hit you. These are the ones that hit me. And it was, you've got all these goals you never finished. You're living the worst you.
Oh,
and
that was rough.
Yeah, it wasn't just rough, but then it makes you introspective, because when you see those charts that, people in the alpha world are using, and they're like, oh, she's about to jump here. Oh, she needs to figure out, oh, she needs to piss her pants so she can, get her kung fu powers. Like all these things that they're looking at as far as like, what is the most improbable thing you can do to be able to connect with that other you? Which, trust me, I got that question for both of you coming up. But the idea that we all have these moments, whether you want to call them butterfly effects or crossroads or whatever it is, that we often think about when somebody points out, where's a moment in time that you would go back to if you could change something about that? We all have those moments, right? Or at least we think we have those moments, because as we're looking at this, some of those moments for Evelyn are major ones, like, what if I'd never left my dad and I hadn't left with Wayman? And you see that she becomes, because she ends up getting mugged and gets protected, then learns kung fu, then becomes a movie star. I'm starting to think that might have been Michelle Yeoh's origin story. Now I think about it, but she becomes a movie star and is rich and famous, never had a family. So you see that there's something that's missing, right? Each one of these people has something that's missing. But the idea that you had these other things that were just minor that she didn't do or she did do, you know, whether that's being a karaoke singer or knitting or whatever all the hobbies are, because when they're at the tax office, they point out like, oh, well, you know, these aren't things that are associated with my job. They're just all these hobbies I have, or all these hobbies she has, when Wayman answers. And it makes you question, like, how different would our lives be if not for one minor change? You know, you didn't call that girl back, or you didn't call that guy back, or you showed up to class late. You know, how much differently things would be. Because if you ever go back and change anything, whether you're time traveling or whatever, I mean, we're talking about interdimensional multiverse stuff here. But if you were ever go back in time, you'd end up killing your future, or at least the future that you have, and, you know, ultimately probably killing off any kids that you may have had as well, but because they wouldn't exist, or at least in that form. But what do you guys think about those small changes, those small differences, choices, as far as the impact that they have, or maybe they don't have?
I mean, for me, like, one of the things my wife and I talk about a lot, if we have a whole bunch of shit going wrong and we don't get in the car in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're running late now. And then as we're driving, there's some huge ass fucking accident that happened a little bit ago. Like, how many times in some other world would I have been in that accident, you know?
Right.
So, like, it becomes anything could do that. And that is, you know, one of those universal things where you sit around late at night when you should be sleeping and your brain's like, let's run scenarios, right? But or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Get that shit.
But yeah.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
No, okay. So there was this chunk of time that when I was like 18, maybe like on the verge of 19, I don't remember what range I was in. But there was some girl I was dating that I made a minor decision that was basically just like, I can take you over to some place that you're comfortable with and drop you off because I gotta go to work. Or I could just call off of work and hang out with you for the day. But there's a part of me that thinks, like, for her, because the dude she ended up with was shitty, maybe that would have ended up better. But for me, because I wasn't with her, then later on that year, I met the same lady that ended up being the person I've spent my life with.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And has been through some shit. Like, the worst possible things that family could do to somebody, like, to me, fucking sucked. But at least, like, I grew up with them. So, like, I knew fucking Gail was a piece of shit. But my wife didn't know, and I don't remember if we're married yet or not. But either way, like, she didn't know what she was getting into at some night at McDonald's when she was like, well, I need a ride home. And then, like, hang out with this dude, and, like, we hung around in the car till the sun came up. Like, that kind of shit may not have happened if I didn't make a specific decision with some other girl I had been dating at the time to drop her off at some other place instead of going to work. And maybe maybe in some other world or some other universe, I made a different decision. Maybe I said, you know what? She needs me to, like, keep her down, keep things together. And that person, and then maybe I would have ended up with that person instead. And fuck, that probably would have been a lot worse. Because that bitch ain't got the backbone my girl got. Okay. My girl got fucking spine. She fucking will just throw hands whenever shit matters. And I needed that when it mattered. I needed that when my family gave up on me.
Most definitely.
The understanding that, like, this idea that a little choice, there's some other world somewhere where there's some me with some fucking barely held together spine motherfucker. That's the person I was with. and they didn't have my back when that shit mattered. And so then we all just broke and bent to other people that also didn't fucking matter. Like, I think about that shit when I watch this and how things could have gone different.
Well, it's also our respective ages, right? Because when you get to, I would say for a lot of people, it seems a bit like 30s. For me, I think it was a little bit later. But typically, you know, when you start having that back pain, that's when you start questioning, what the fuck should I have done differently?
When you kneel down to pick something up and stuff pops.
And you can't get back up.
Okay.
Like all of a sudden, the ghost of the life alert lady is like, that ain't funny now, is it, motherfucker? But I remember when you kids used to make fun of me on that commercial. But I've had this conversation with James, so this isn't a secret. And this isn't a secret to anybody who listens.
That's right. I told everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Oh, you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. If Anton just brought up exes, you know what we're going to do.
I was going to go there with you, and I decided not to. So go ahead.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That person whose name shall not be revealed on this show, I wish that person the best.
Her real name or the name you call her?
Both. Because, you know, after a while, it takes a while to heal from a toxic / abusive relationship. And no matter what this person says, she can deny it all she wants. There was a lot of toxicity in abuse from one person to another. So anyway, so what I will say is, as I've had this discussion with James, as I had this discussion with other people when I was giving them a similar advice or advice similar to what I'm about to say, is you can't regret the decisions you made or want to change them, because once you get to the point where you've gotten, they're learning experiences. So with my wife, with Claudia, there's not an issue to where I'm kind of like, man, I really wish I hadn't met that early girl before you. I don't think I would have the relationship I have, if that makes sense. And if there were this moment of like, oh, I could go back and change it, that undoes so many things. And in this, I'm looking right at the other quote that Joy had about, you know, mattering and stuff like that. This whole idea of if nothing matters, because you have to deal with that in the film as well, then all the pain that you feel just kind of goes away, or at least the suffering or how you suffered or whatever goes away. So basically what I'm saying with this long diatribe is I've considered this a good number of times, as far as if I'd gone to this school, or if I'd done this, or I'd dated this person, or if I had actually answered the phone when this person was trying to call me, like how many things would be different. But I can wonder that, but I can't want to change that. What I would do is use that going forward and see it as, this is what I didn't do in that situation. If I'm faced with that situation again in the future, this is what I do. Or I'm talking to someone, my daughter, nieces, nephews, whatever, and they want advice about school or relationships or something. And I would use my experiences as a way to help guide their decision, as opposed to, man, I was with this one girl one time and this happened and this happened. I wish I'd never met her, as opposed to pointing out how you look for those signs in somebody who may be not matched for you, or not a good match for you, might be toxic for you, might end up in an abusive situation. But yeah, that's what I had to say about that.
I just really fast want to go back to something that Anton said.
Yeah.
Whenever we, as humans, whenever we play this game of what would you go back for, we all concentrate on us. And you said that it might have been great for her, but it wouldn't have been great for you. And I can't help but think, like, how many things could I go back and change that would improve someone else's life and not really phase mine? And so that's going to be my new game that I'm going to torture myself with at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep.
So Quantum Leap.
Kind of, except it would actually be me.
Well, no. I say that half joking.
No, I know.
Because one, we do kind of internalize it or kind of fixate on what is it going to mean for us, right? Because we think about how those negative things or the course of history may have negatively impacted us, right? And just because it negatively impacted us, it might have positively impacted somebody else. And even if we're talking about again multi-universe stuff, the idea of time travel, going back, forward, whatever, or going into alternate versions of ourselves, the focus or the fixation becomes on the self. And I think it doesn't really change until near the end of this movie, where Evelyn realizes it's not about fixing the shit that she did when she was wrong. Did when she was younger. It's seeing the effect that it's had on her daughter. And, just the idea that her daughter wants to disassociate from her and how painful that is. And now this is something that she can do that's going to impact both of them positively. One, I'm going to be a mother. An active mother, a supportive mother. And then two, my daughter is going to have a strong relationship with her mother to where it's not a burden anymore. Or she's not seen as a burden or as something that's going to constantly be judged. So I think that aspect does play into the movie. It takes a while to get to that part, but it definitely demonstrates it toward the end of this idea that my actions can have, or even with, how have we gone this long without talking about Jamie Lee Curtis?
No. Okay, so Jamie Lee Curtis, no, because, that shit, there was that moment, I'm not certain where I put this in my notes. Just for y'all at home, I got 3 pages of notes because I'm professional like a motherfucker.
I have none.
Just in case you watch old episodes. So, but I came to this joint for time travel shenanigans, but then got Jamie Lee Curtis fucking jump kicking Kei Wei Kwan into other fucking dimensions because, of course, my bitch got that shit.
What's wild about this? This is more like not behind the scenes, but some stuff that I read up on when the movie came out. Was Jamie Lee Curtis is like, this is real world stuff, not necessarily the movie. But Jamie Lee Curtis in interviews had pointed out, she's like, no, that's my real body on film. I'm not gonna fucking hide it. And she in one of the interviews, I can't remember who it was, but she pointed out, she's like, do you realize how liberating it was for me not to wear Spanx or a girl, or I could just sit there and just let everything out? And because people thought that she was wearing a bodysuit, and she's like, no, that's me. I'm not covering it up with the clothing. I'm not cinching it in. There's nothing. I enjoyed doing this movie for many reasons, but one of the reasons was I could just fucking sit here with my stomach out, with my boobs hanging, and just do a movie, as opposed to, some of the other movies that she's done where it's like, oh, well, let's try and not show you as so old or as you've gained weight or anything like that. It's just kind of like, no, fuck you. I'm gonna present myself the way I am.
Yeah, and
which I love.
I was there for Jamie Lee Curtis with fucking pooch popping out. I don't give a fuck. First off, my girl was from some early days in my life, but also just acknowledging where she is now, because I'm an old ass motherfucker and I got some shit popping out of places. I'm fighting, trying to keep my heart from not killing myself, but also maybe be able to look, wear something that looks nice and not have all of me just flubbing over the top of it. So when she would sit down, and there were some bits that just kind of flowed over other bits. Mm-hmm. I was down with that shit like a motherfucker. Yeah, girl is my shit.
Imagine normalizing being normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Like I
that's,
normally fight the word normal, even though I said normally just now saying it. But in this situation, holy fuck, I would love for people to normalize being normal.
you think?
And so I mentioned my grandma earlier. There was this line a bit early in the movie that where our girl was saying something to her daughter that was something along the lines like, "You're getting fat."
Oh,
It
yeah.
was entirely a place filler. She was uncomfortable, and I loved that they just let the discomfort fill the room. And then Mom was like, "Well, I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to say you're getting fat, and people won't like you then if you're getting fat." That is 100% my grandma. That is 100% that lady that would show up to our bathroom, like show up to our house and come into the bathroom, not because she had to pee, but because she wanted to see how clean you were keeping that. And she would check the corners underneath the toilet. Like her ass would like fucking dip down and look underneath that to find out like if you got those little bitty corners that maybe picked up some dust, so she could talk shit about you later on. Like that's what I was feeling in that, like, because I got an aunt that deals with weight issues. And I've had so many times where I've been around family where people were saying things about her that were just, well, she's showing to her kids or she's showing to other people that like these problems are okay. And there's a part of me that's, well, okay, so you're saying this now because she's not here. But I'm here. And I'm overweight as a motherfucker. So you're saying that shit to me.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't directly saying that to me, but I see you saying that to me. Like, fuck you. Like, I got that same kind of feeling from the family interactions with this. And again, this is one of those moments that really hit hard. Whoever, like, all the people involved in writing this got how people interact and got the shitty things that I'm sure people say thinking that they're being good people, but fuck other people up really fucking bad. And they wanted to say, like, look, you fucking people up. I so respect that they just went ahead and just ran with that shit.
Totally.
Yeah, because I'm avoiding the trope, but I'll just say they didn't pull any punches in this movie. So sorry for the pun.
But they didn't pull any hot dog finger punches or hot dog finger slaps
or dildos to the face.
Movie.
All right, let's go there. Let's go with the dildos, butt plugs.
That's what everybody's here for.
Well, I know. That's what you advertise.
When people think James and Don, they think butt plugs, dildo fights. That's why they're here.
This isn't the University of Texas campus.
So, Don, you're saying that when you attended the University of Texas.
Oh, I never did. No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the students there had a great plan during the whole open carry movement with all the gun humpers that were running around saying, like, you can't ban our guns, the Second Amendment, woo! But the state of Texas had a limit on don't have a limit on how many guns you can have, but they have a limit on how many dildos you can have, as well as how many, whether or not you can show a dildo in public. So all these students decided to get dildos and carry them around campus in protest of the stupid law, because nothing says freedom like repressed sexuality.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that Texas had a bad policy.
No. But I mean, like, because Texas is the state of pegging. We know that, okay? Texas, like, everything is bigger in Texas. So right. That means the dick you use, your prosthetic dick for pegging, is much larger in Texas. That means every asshole in Texas has been gauged like a motherfucker.
Well,
Like,
I will say that the assholes in Texas are bigger.
Okay, so then you see, they can handle bigger cocks. That's all we need to acknowledge. Texas can deal with bigger cocks in their ass than the rest of the country.
This explains a lot about Ted Cruz. He's one of the biggest pricks I've ever seen. So
Ted Cruz just wants a gentle ass fucking. That's all it is. He wants you to be understanding and know you just need to go inch by inch, not fucking
like a gentleman.
By yard.
Boy, oh boy.
The Necronomicon.com has been brought to you by Adam and Eve, the superstore for all of your adult items.
I wish. Send me money. But
yeah. Adam and Eve will support this stuff because they got some good stuff.
I'm down. We're always looking for sponsors.
Things to buy,
since Popeyes was a bunch of dicks.
What did Popeyes do?
Nothing. It's
Shit. Okay,
terrible joke.
No, fuck anyway. My only chicken I can like. God damn it. Because Kentucky Fried is bullshit. And Chick-fil-A, we know, like, whatever. They soaked it in fucking pickle juice. I got pickle juice at home, motherfucker. So
from giant cocks.
So Popeyes, like, if you say Popeyes is doing shit, I'm gonna be sad because that's the only.
Oh no, it's just an old joke from when we were first recording. We talked about the show was brought to us by Popeyes chicken sandwich because that was
always say Popeyes,
yeah, because it was during the Chickenopolis.
Like when people were stabbing people over chicken sandwiches, and I just found it really entertaining. That's all.
Yeah, no, like I don't understand the chicken sandwich thing, but I will acknowledge, like, if you want, like, good ass, like, their Popeye's spicy chicken actually has some spice to it. It's more than the 11 herbs and spices that the Colonel offers. It has flavor.
Welcome to our chicken podcast. We'll be right back.
If you go to Popeyes, there's flavor involved. So don't tell me that Popeye's been shitty. Because goddamn, it's the only place I got left.
So Don, what were you going to say about dildo fights and butt plugs?
All right. Now, I love
he's prepared. I like
the premise of this because it's when Alpha Wayman is explaining, it's like, oh, you have to do something that is statistically improbable for you to do, right? So the cringy, the part that made me cringe, and this is just like for me when it comes to body horror, I don't like paper cuts, and I do not like seeing people paper cut themselves intentionally on film.
That webbing,
because I could feel that. but the idea that, you know, Wayman set it up or Alpha Wayman is setting it up and saying like, oh, you have to do something improbable or something that's not out of character for you in order for you to contact or come into contact with your other being, with your other you in some other universe, right? So as opposed to a movie like The Matrix where they hook you into a computer to learn kung fu, it's, oh, I do this random thing, and now I'm in touch with the me in another universe that happens to be a kung fu master, which I think is a cool touch. I mean, it's a great way to get someone like Michelle Yeoh, who is skilled in martial arts and has done several. I shouldn't even say several. She's done many martial arts movies. But the idea that this is going to be the way for her and fans of her to finally be like, oh shit, now she gets to do kung fu. She gets to do martial arts because she comes into contact with the other version of herself. But yeah, being that you start to realize, okay, there are other people that are going to be activated as well. Not that there was foreshadowing with the awards that Deirdre had behind her desk, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, but you see him and it's a funny gag at that moment. And then when you see it elsewhere, you know, like lying out in the security guard and a couple of other people are fighting, and then you quickly realize he's going to shove that up his ass.
Oh yeah,
in order to get better skills.
Those jumping moments. So okay, just for y'all at home, in case there's somebody that for some reason, like, look, we all had questions. We've all been curious about things. I will tell you, don't fucking jump onto a goddamn dildo. That shit will hurt, okay? Use lube. There are all kinds of, like, non-oil-based lubes because there are infection issues. And you don't want your asshole infected with shit. Also, my girls at home, like, you don't want that, like, bread shit going on. Don't use, like, anybody that's trying to say, like, well, I just use olive oil. Don't use that shit. Okay. Use some water-soluble lube. There's all kinds of it out there. And also, don't just jump on that shit. Okay, give it a little bit of a break because.
But the visual, though, Anton, the visual.
The visual I will give, but like I'm just picturing somebody like, well, I saw this movie, and so I just thought like, just fucking shove that shit in. And
look,
then,
I wrote down in my notes, butt plug cannonball.
Oh God.
Because you know that one security when Evelyn's character is fighting the one guy and stops him from doing it, you then have this slow motion of the other security guard, no pants, pulling his knees up to his chest. He's in the air, and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
and you just quickly realize, I did not know this was the movie I signed up for.
No,
I'm still here. I'm hanging in. I'm here for this, but this is not what I thought it was. But just the two guys with I think one had a trophy, the other, well, I mean, they were both trophies really, but you had the different objects up the anal cavities as these guys are fighting. There's no one can say, I saw a movie just like this before. There's no fucking way you saw a movie like this before, ever.
Maybe on Pornhub.
No, even there, I doubt that you've seen anything, some kung fu fighting or Wing Chun fighting that involved things in the anal cavity. Foreign objects, if you will.
But there was the point before that, shit, I just forgot things. God damn it. But no, there was a point before they jumped on the, like, anal beads and various things. So there was the dildo fight before that point.
Yes.
And those were like, I think, because I've looked through reviews of this movie, and there were several people that are like, well, I thought I was going to get a kung fu movie, and then there was somebody getting hit with dildos. Like, no. Like, I will, like, blood on the dildo? Yes. Okay, that moment where she was just beating the shit out of somebody with a dick? Yes. Totally there for that. And then when you had dudes like come in like, the only way I can get the power is like asshole power, like jumping on that. And so there was the one dude with like the little dinky tiny type of award,
right?
There was just like, it was basically just a butt plug on, like, just set up on a platform. That was it. But then there was the other dude that came running around with, like, that shit hanging out his ass, fucking good foot long. Like,
the full trophy.
That dude was
he took first place.
Because that dude knew, like,
first place took him.
Maybe it was going to stop at the first little section, because those of y'all that don't know, once you get past your butthole, inside your intestine, there are little chambers. So he was looking like, it's just going to stop at that first chamber. It could have not stopped at the first chamber. It could have kept going. And dude could have had another fucking foot long of, like, award. Just glittery.
Look, he is the award topper at this moment. All right.
We're never taking a hiatus again.
No. So to transition here, I do want to There was an unexpected cameo in this movie that I didn't think was going to happen. And that was, I wasn't sure if it, well, I mean, they probably changed in the different scenes, but Candace Owen, Tim Scott, Clarence Thomas, it was really cool to see them in this movie. Do you guys not see them?
No.
I did not.
No.
Yeah, it was the Raccacoonie part.
Yeah. The Raccacoonie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Never mind. I'll leave the comment to myself.
Although, I'm going to back up a little bit from you and just mention the cookie is kung fu. Because I really liked that every bit that mom fucks up.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much focus on like all of these other versions of her that found their focus. But the mom we follow is a fuck up. But she's me so goddamn much. And
my question is, you're saying fuck up, but my question is she that way by comparison, or is she just a screw up? I mean, I'm genuinely asking that. As far as are we looking at it more harshly because we see all the things that she could have been? Is it possible that this is the best version of her because she still has something those other ones don't?
Well, and that's where my love came in, because all of her fuck ups were the universe showing her the consequences of her actions. So every time she fucks up, she learns something more. Mm-hmm. So when this movie says that she's the one that never figured out who she is,
right?
Like every other version of her, like they figured out like she's the kung fu movie star, or she's the person flipping around signs, whatever the shit is. But like this version of her that never knew and just always felt like everything she did was shit. But she's the one that tried everything. And she's the one that has that touch of all those things in her. And she's the one that learned from fucking up. All the other ones, like, learned a little bit from fucking up some small things, but then they found their one thing. She fucked up in a lot of shit. So she learned so goddamn much more than the rest of them ever learned.
And I think you can attribute it to the fact that because she screwed up, right? We often look at it as if things go well for whatever. You know, you're playing basketball, you know, you're playing a sport or school or whatever. You don't know how to deal with failure. I mean, if you're always winning, you don't know how to deal with failure. And I think that, and you're right, I think we've seen her fail so many times, or at least we have this idea of she's tried to figure it out. Not necessarily she's failed, but she didn't finish this goal, or she didn't finish this one, or she gave up this in exchange for that. We see how she's able to transition, as opposed to if she happened to be a kung fu expert, becomes a movie star, has all these successful movies, and then all of a sudden she has a movie that sucks. Like, how is she going to deal with that? You know, is she going to crawl up in a ball and say, like, I'm not doing any more movies? If she happens to be like the chef at the Benihana place, and she just screws up making somebody's dinner, but she had been doing so well, apparently, I guess, before. Now she has to deal with, you know, I can't cook here anymore. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to go on? As opposed to failures are lessons, losses are lessons. Whereas when you win, you're thinking more about that win and not necessarily all the things that could have gone wrong for you to lose. When you lose, you think about all the things that went wrong that you could have made right to win.
And that's one of the things that we're, like, I think I mentioned before. If I didn't, then I'm mentioning it now. That the kung fu in this is very Jackie Chan kung fu. Mm-hmm. And one of the quotes from Jackie Chan that I love the most is when he was talking about, like, when he was a kid, he used to watch, like, Bruce Lee films. But Bruce Lee was always the badass. Bruce Lee was always the one, like, when you knew he walked in everybody else was fucked. And Jackie Chan looked at that as like, but what if you were the other person? What if you wanted to just be around? You just wanted to do what you needed to do. And so all the Jackie Chan films are very much like the kung fu that's in this. She doesn't do perfect kung fu. She, like, you know, her husband fucking whips out the fanny pack. Like, everybody is just trying to get along. And that's the kind of, like, when you picture kung fu as, like, the ideal of, like, people fuck with you, I can fuck them up back. Instead, this is, like, shit happens, and maybe this will help me not fall the fuck apart when shit happens. Like, that's what I feel like with her approach with this. And the whole movie's approach. It's much more of that Jackie Chan kind of, I just want to be like, what would a regular person that maybe knows a couple things, but how would they deal with this kind of situation come in? And I feel like a lot more of that comes in on this movie than, say, like the Bruce Lee version.
All right, so James, I know you're an English major, so forgive me as I talk about or stumble through talking about metaphors and symbols and all that other stuff, because one thing that stood out to me, and I make the argument that if I saw it, then it should be obvious to everybody else. But the whole theme, or at least the inclusion of circles and what they mean, and I mean, I guess you could even say it fits in with the title as far as everything, everywhere, all at once. Because with a circle, there is no beginning, there is no end. I mean, unless you're drawing it, then, you know, there's a beginning and then you stop. But it's closed, right? And you see this throughout the film, whether we're talking about the bagel, whether we're talking about Joy's hairstyle or Jobu's hairstyle, because she's Jobu at that point. The washer and dryer in the laundromat. I mean, there's so many times that you see circles pop up where I've got to go back and watch this movie again, because I feel like the circles are almost like hidden Mickeys at Disneyland. Like, they're there, and then you have to start searching for other ones that they threw in.
Like the laundromat?
Yeah. The wedding rings would be another one, even though there's a petition to divorce. I mean, the only thing that can break a wedding ring is a petition for divorce or dissolution of the marriage. But circles themselves, I mean, again, no beginning, no end. They go on and on. They don't stop. And my question was, you know, what other metaphors, what other themes did you see that picked up, or what are the circles? How did they stand out to you, and what potential meaning did they have, or potential meaning aside from what I'm seeing?
So there's that whole loop thing, and there's a quote from Joy that really resonated with me as a happy nihilist, because I get where this end comes from, even though I don't agree with it. But that whole, like, if nothing matters, then all the pain and all the guilt you feel for making nothing of your life goes away. Sucked into the bagel. That's my version of singing whatever, like, thing that she's saying on that. But, like, honestly, that bit of that circular logic, that everything is connected, and if everything is tied together, then if nothing matters, then not a fucking thing that you do matters. Mm-hmm. I get that feeling. Now I go the other end where I'm like, well, then nothing that I fuck up matters that much. So I can still fuck up some more, and it's okay. And I won't stress out about that shit. But, like, her whole approach to, like, nothing good that I do matters. I get that feeling.
And you know what? That's a hard-hitting point, because there are a lot of people that have, I mean, outside of this movie, but there are a lot of people that have that same position, which is nothing I do matters. But what they're referring to is the good things that they do, or the things that they work hard on, right? they feel as though it doesn't matter. In all honesty, to sound really messed up right now, in the long run, nothing we do matters because, the sun's eventually going to explode, die, whatever, and this universe will be gone one day. It's kind of messed up to think about it, but in the grand scheme of the universe, we will all just go away.
And that's where this movie does some really interesting things. And part of this I want to hold for the end of it, so I don't want to delve too deep into, but there's a lot this movie does with simplistic nihilism compared to what I consider to be more realistic nihilism. And that's where that line of people saying, well, nothing that I do matters, so I can just be as fucked up as I want to be. Or people saying, well, nothing I do matters, so whatever I fuck up is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can still do other things. And none of it matters anyways, so, like, if I have some fuck-ups, nobody gives a shit about that. That doesn't matter. What matters is whatever I decide matters. And there's a line in nihilism with that. That I think this movie does a really good and an absolutely amazing job of drawing that line. And to be honest, like, later on in the movie, when we get near the end, where I start getting all weepy is the amount of feeling that it draws into the idea that, like, okay, if nothing matters, then feel what you fucking feel. Be who you fucking are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Because you know what? If there's somebody that doesn't fucking like it, it doesn't matter. There are 15,000 other universes where that person doesn't even exist anymore. Let alone the ones where that person doesn't matter. So, just fucking be. And yeah, none of it matters. But also, excitedly, none of it fucking matters. So no matter how shitty I am, 10 years ago, the bad shit I did when I was 18 years old, or the bad shit that I did when I was 35, or the bad shit that I did when I was 40, or the bad shit that I did yesterday, ultimately it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe today I can make something a little better for somebody else. And that's when I get all fucking weepy with this movie, because there is that bit of maybe today. And I hold on to that with every piece of myself.
Yeah, and it would be those moments. So even though the totality of it doesn't matter in the long run, there's still going to be that experience that you have while you're here, right? So one of the things that I wasn't too intrigued by this until you actually got to see them hang out, which was like the rich version of Wayman and the movie star version of Evelyn, where they're talking, and she makes some comment about being able to see, and she saw that she had a kid, and she saw that she was doing laundry and whatever, and she kind of brushes him off again, kind of the same way that she had decided to not go with him when she in the past, as far as that detour, that fork in the road. But he points out, like, oh, I would have been just fine doing laundry with you. I would have been fine just doing taxes with you. Like, I would have been with you. And, talking about the impact that you have on somebody else, or the mistakes that you then make, and thinking about what I lost in this, to go back to, I'm sorry, let me do this again, to circle back to where we were talking about this earlier. This idea of you still have an impact on other people. It's not just about the decisions that you make. Like, how different would her father's, would Gong Gong's life been if she had stayed? I mean, as far as like seeing all those different versions, those different realities, right? Because it seems like with her going off to do kung fu and going into the movies, she wasn't home that much. She wasn't around her father. Like she still leaves. She just leaves for a different reason. But yeah, it was interesting to see that inclusion as far as seeing another version of Wayman who's saying, I would have been fine. Like, I'm rich, but I would have rather had you. I'm financially rich, but I'm missing something. Like I was supposed to be with you. And I would much rather have spent my life with you as opposed to without you.
And that's why, like I mentioned before, oh God, like I want to marry Wayman so bad. Like, fuck it. If my dude is not in more fucking movies after this shit, I'm gonna be so angry because those little bits like that and the look in his face, just like when you talk about somebody acting, like you can tell he understood what that character meant. He understood that, like, there are those moments where you're like, you got your person that's drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one, even though he's such a small part of the film, I still stand like, he is probably, to me, the hero of the film because that's what I want to be. I want to be that person that will, like, when you're at your fucking lowest, will reach their fucking hand out to you and just say, like, look, I don't give a shit how bad things get. I just want some time with you. Mm-hmm. And even if that time with you is you hating that this is all we have, I still really, like, that's what I want out of life. And, like, that's the person I want to be in life. That's, like, I could beat the shit out of people with dildos all day long. I could be the one, like, be one of the raw dog, fucking, like, leap onto, no lube, a fucking, like 1.5 foot tall, like, ass plug trophy. I don't know how that occurs, but, like, I could be the one doing that, but still, if I could be anybody, being the one that is willing to say, that's able to say, no matter what you are, no matter who you are right now, no matter who you wanted to be, I still want to be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that fucking dude. When I talk about how much this movie makes me cry, this is why. Like, he is a big part of it. We're all told as guys to be things, but to be honest, like, any of my dudes out there, if you could be somebody, be him. If you have the chance to support somebody else at your own detriment, who gives a fuck? Support that fucking person. And if you do that, you're my fucking dude.
I like that. I want to go back to the circles because, Don, you said you're not an English major and that you don't notice things. And this is so huge to me. And it also pulls into the scene that we were just talking about. So it's kind of everything, everywhere, all at once. But the circles, the first time you see a circle, or at least the first time I noticed the circles, was when Jamie Lee Curtis circles stuff on the tax stuff, right? And she shows it to them, and it's a black circle with white inside because of the paper. And this keeps going. The bagel is black, and it's always getting, like, smaller, like it's like closing in or overtaking the middle, right? And it's in Joy's hair, and these black circles are everywhere. And the only way to win is to get the white circle with the black inside, which is a googly eye. And these googly eyes come from the guy who says he only fights with kindness. And it's the direct opposite of the way everyone with the black hole has been fighting. And the only way for our chick to win is to get this fucking googly eye and try both at once. And when white and black combine in Chinese culture, the yin yang is extremely important. And it's contrasting viewpoints that are also extremely complementary. And in doing so, she's no longer just herself, and she's no longer this piece. She has part of Joy, and she has part of Waymond, and she has it all together. So everything all at once, right? And I just find that so great, because googly eyes, while the black part always falls down, if you put it in the center, it becomes the direct contrast of the black hole. And I just love it. There you go.
Shit.
That's what I get. That's what I get for being an historian.
And now I'm getting that bit, like, because early on in the movie, there's the bit where Mom just yells out, "No more googly eyes!"
Yep.
And that's her journey, like, because this whole movie is about her journey as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing early on, there were reviews that just kind of reduced things down to being her journey as a person, just being about her being willing to accept her gay daughter, which it makes it pretty clear, like, from early on, like, she says, like, "I don't give a shit that you're gay." No, granted, she does have the caveat that, like, "I don't give a shit that you're gay, but maybe Grandpa will be worried about it."
He's and not at all.
But
he's just like, "Oh, cool, girlfriend, great."
Yeah. Like, I fucking love, like, once Grandpa meets the girlfriend, he's like, "So you down?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm down." But then he's like, "Whatever. Fucking what's up, dude?" Like, we're cool. Like, but
I love how he says something really sweet, and the girlfriend just goes, "What did he say?" I thought that was so great.
Like, I don't know what happened, but I know what the thing happened. Yeah, she's all of that, and that whole end of being so concerned about what other people will think. I think that goes back to the core of this so much, that Mom is so stressed about, because she was brought up to believe, like, you worry about what other people think. You worry about what Grandpa's going to think. You worry about what the culture's going to think. And that ultimately, when it comes down to it, when it's finally connected, and Grandpa's told, like, this is her girlfriend, his response is like, "So you cool?" And she's cool, so he's fine. Like, I kind of, as much as Grandpa was shitty early on, I see him grow. And I kind of like the fact that they let him grow.
Right.
So that we get to see that, like, look, even y'all old people, even y'all people that had your entrenched shit, here's your guy, and here's what you can be. You can be better. Don't be the one that's making shit worse for your kids. Instead, be like fucking Lopan. You like green eyes, and you like your lesbian ass granddaughter. Like, whatever the fuck. It's cool.
Now, have either of you had a moment where, I mean, similar to this one with Gong Gong and Joy's girlfriend, where somebody, again, with the circles, they broke that cycle without having it imposed upon them, in the sense where, you know, Gong Gong is kind of like, "Oh, cool," as opposed to the reaction that Evelyn expected from him, because it seems like it was more of her discomfort with it and what other people would think, as opposed to what the reality is.
Well, I think that's what anxiety is. And okay. Mom is definitely somebody that deals with, like, full-on anxiety. But I get that, because I've had the same kind of things. Like, I had that trip. I had a time where I was driving, like, fucking 2 miles away from my house with my mom and my wife in the same car. And I knew there was an intersection we were going to come to. And I knew my wife was going to say to go one way. My mom was going to say to go the other way. And I got fucking stressed like a motherfucker. Like, I'm the one driving the car. Honestly, in real life, it don't fucking matter, because I got my foot on the gas pedal. But I was stressed as shit about that. So I get mom's stress on this. I get that feeling of like that somebody that you're supposed to care about, and whether or not you should actually care about the things that they care about, you feel like they're going to say something. So you get overworked up about that. And you know what happened at that intersection? Not a damn one of them said a fucking thing, no matter which way I went. Because none of them fucking cared. They cared about where we're getting to. But I worked my shit up like a motherfucker over that. Because that's just where I've been built up. And I feel like that's where my girl is. I feel like that's the position she's in, is she just expects those things. Mm-hmm. And admittedly, like Dad, he built up his expectations. He can't complain that his daughter is worried about what he thinks when he was judgmental as fuck about everything. The big point in all of this seems to be her understanding. Like, once she eventually realizes what all the weight her dad put on her did to her, and that she was putting that same weight onto her daughter, that's where all this shit came from. That's where the focus really seems to be. And so Grandpa don't matter that much. Like, yeah, he eventually, honestly, he don't give a fuck. Like, whatever, my daughter's a lesbian, I got other shit to worry about. I'm shitting my own pants right now, as I imagine I probably will be at his age. So, like, would you care if you have drawers full of shit? Are you gonna care if if your granddaughter's a lesbian? Probably not. But, like, because you taught your daughter to fear all of these things from you, then she's gonna fear that, and then she's gonna put that onto her kid. And her kid's going to be so worried. And her kid's going to eventually say, you know what? I've realized nothing in the universe matters. So then I'm just going to destroy everything because you made me worry so much. And my only choices are worrying about everything or destroying everything. Mm. And unfortunately, that's where Joy is at. I feel so bad for my girl. I feel so bad for my girl's mom. Like, probably Grandpa dealt with the same shit, but we just haven't seen him deal with it. Like, it's just generations on generations of people putting their own bullshit on other people and not knowing when to just fucking let it go. So there's Pomeranian Cam that was really awesome.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Shit.
I really, but that's just a side thing that, like, it amused me. The whole thing was like her being like, I hate doing this to my dog, but the bagel tells me that I must hit you with my dog, so I'm gonna swing my dog around and kick him at you. Like, again, when we're dealing with, like, other people telling you what matters, that one inconsequential side character still has, like, because she clearly is fucking broken up about hurting her dog, but somebody else said, you have to do this, so she did it. I
mean, that rolls into everything right there. Like, yeah. That's so many characters in this. And but each one is doing it differently, and that's kind of cool. I loved, like when I first saw it and I wasn't fully thinking about it, I loved that she would attack with the dog, but then, like, would get upset if somebody else heard it. And I was like, what?
It's her dog.
Lady, are you not paying attention here?
It's fine when I do it.
Well, you're talking about other people making the decisions, right? And that's where I look at things like tradition, whether that's cultural traditions, national traditions, whatever it is. It's peer pressure from dead people is what it is. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with any of these societal expectations. It's stuff that's passed on to you by people you will never interact with. Never. Like, whatever their Facebook post happens to say, or whatever other social media that they happen to use, whatever bullshit lie they say, as far as like, oh, you got to respect this person who just died. And then I ask a question as far as like, why should I respect person who died? Well, because of this, this, and this. And then I would point out the bad things that that person did, just as though we're talking about mistakes or bad choices, things like that. I guess the general understanding that a lot of people have, or at least a lot of people push, is you're not supposed to talk about bad things that people did once they're dead. And my question is, if we weren't allowed to talk about it when they were alive, why can't we talk about it now that they're dead? Since it doesn't matter. But yeah,
especially
just the whole,
if they like colonized a whole bunch of places.
Well, you know,
what?
Or
hey, do you have any thoughts on her son while we're here?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he has hot dog fingers.
Thank you.
Okay,
but
so
the British tabloids like went after him because I guess he has. I don't know if he actually has like blood issue, circulation issues or anything. But the Sun and a couple other publications, they've named him Charles Sausage Fingers or King's. But then what was even worse was people at the BBC referred to him as the Sandwich King. And when asked to like elaborate, they said, "Oh, he's not going to be king for that long. He's just king until the next one."
What were you going to say?
So I wanted to step in for a moment just because I did kind of publicly ask some people about that whole issue with the sausage fingers, because there is the question, because there's the whole like relationship between Jamie Lee Curtis and Yo, and it's like it's sweet, but also like there are some points where that shit gets a little hot, and we know like some stuff's about to happen. So I needed to ask some ladies that I know, because like as a dude, like I will acknowledge like, okay, if there's a sausage like ass blasting me, it's not gonna be that like the fingers are big, but they're kind of floppy, so like how's it even gonna get in there? So I asked some ladies, and I did get some responses. My favorite was from my girl Heather, that did give me permission to repeat the things she said. So this is from Heather.
You could just read this whole thread because it was amazing. But yeah, continue.
I want to like the rest of the people. I just won't say their names, but this one, fucking Heather, had that shit on lock. Okay, so first thing, she did acknowledge that she didn't see the movie, but she was just thinking about the idea of hot dog extensions on the end of fingers. So first off, they're too floppy for any stimulation or penetration. For that matter, you want salami or at least a Slim Jim. I liked that. Then, for penetration, probably not substantive enough when the lady bears down. You might want to put in a hot dog, but she might squeeze out potted meat. Oh, Heather. She might squeeze out potted meat. And unless you eat crackers in bed, then what do you do?
Oh my.
I'm just picturing somebody sitting there with like their Triscuits underneath their lady, like, okay, give me a little bit more. And then in the crackers. So for clitoral stimulation, I mean, maybe, but I'm guessing no. If the lady likes a little fridge temp rubby action, it might work. But as others have mentioned, it's probably difficult to titillate intensely with. Though you might try one fresh off the grill to see if the heat works for her.
Oh my.
I'm picturing somebody like with their fingers like laying over a grill to warm them up.
I have questions now about whether jalapeno cheddar is a bad choice.
They had ketchup and mustard during their sensual moment.
I will say, non-categorically, if you have ever like made the mistake of being the person that has cut up habaneros, or jalapeno peppers, and not properly washed your hands afterwards, sexy times will not occur because someone will be very mad with you. So, but
I
there's
prefer
more.
to get the burning sensation a few days later after they're gone. Oh,
it's not a few days later. It happens real fucking quick. You get very immediate feedback on like, ooh, something's a little like, oh wait, huh, what, ah, so, but going on with, because this is probably the same like fridge temp versus warmed up thing. Though you might try fresh off the grill to see if heat works for her, it does for many. In parentheses, pork grease is not recommended for lube. Neither is towel. So just for y'all at home, if you're thinking for some reason all you gotta do is like rub your shit up against some ribs, don't do that. The ladies have spoken. Do not use pig or cow grease as lube.
You never know what you're gonna learn on our show.
No. But maybe try a slice of bologna here instead. Then you could have a finger on the safe side of the meat. Any chance of pressure fertilization, and it will warm up a little bit.
And for the guys out there, just grab an Arby's roast beef sandwich.
Yes, so you could do that. But again, make sure they didn't overcook the roast beef. If you have it too dry, it's a problem.
Oh man.
But you don't want to just use the beef grease as your lubrication. There's more still. This is just from Heather. And you didn't
That's just from Heather so far? Holy shit.
Yeah, we have not stepped past her. Number 4, and you didn't mention flogging, but a floppy hot dog, especially the skinnier foot-long ones where you can get a better grip, could be a pleasant sensation. And if you get a snack later, grill that up, throw some chili and cheese on it, and now you have a party. So I'm just picturing Jamie Lee Curtis like fucking smacking that ass like she's in the 90s, and then chopping off a little bit, throwing some fucking Cincinnati chili, like either cinnamon or chocolate based, depending on if you're Skyline or Gold Star. That is, among my people, a very serious debate. I'm sorry for the rest of you that had to deal with that. But you'd have a whole thing involved. You have a meal later. So I love, like, Heather is my bitch. Like, that shit, like, then I had some general response, like, just too floppy. And something that, like, one lady just said, not something that would turn me on at all. It has no vibration to it.
Wow.
So, several people that just said straight up, this grossed me out. I had to nope the fuck out. I love the amount of people that just said, like, no, I fast forwarded the movie the second those hot dog fingers came in. So I don't know what this has to do with the larger idea of the movie, but if you're somebody that's thinking about, like, you know, you got a lady or you got a dude, because, you know, things go in holes, and you think hot dogs might work well. The general consensus seems to be, first off, if you're going to do it, heat it up, but also it's probably going to break off, and so have some crackers available so you can at least have, like, a mid-quitus snack.
I feel bad for whoever is following this episode. Like, I don't know. I don't know who our next guest is, but I feel bad for them because they can't live up to this.
But then there were, like, so I had to get that in because those people put their time in, put their thought in. But there was a whole thing in the movie of, like, at the end, where it's taking everybody in the line, every single person that knows my girl Joy, holding on to her and holding on to the person in front of them and holding on to them. And they're all just trying their best. Every single person knowing that if they hold on too tight, this one person goes in, we all go in. But they're still holding on. And they're trying to hold her back from her own self-destruction. And at the end, there's a parent just trying their best. There's a mom just not knowing what she's doing, but fucking up at every turn, but still trying so damn hard. And ultimately saying to her daughter, if nothing matters, if everything ends right now, that one goddamn statement that she said, then I will cherish these few specks of time. Like I've said before, I cried at this movie. That moment fucking broke me. But that's who we all want to be. We want to be the person saying, like, if you don't have anything left in you, if you can't hold on anymore, I still got this bit with you. I still got some time where I got to know you. I got to be a part of whatever you are. And that matters to me. And those people that are ready to let go, they're really willing to dive into that fucking everything bagel. That knowing that there are people that are happy that they had a conversation with you. A time that they just got to connect for 2 seconds. And then you disappear from their life, they disappear from yours, but you still mattered to them. I really hope, if there are any of you hearing this, that are on that precipice, that you know those fucking people are there. Like, again, like, I told you I was gonna fucking cry during this. I'm fucking crying now. But I needed to hear that shit in my own life. It's so happy to see a movie that people put their money behind, people put their hearts behind, that ultimately boils down to, no matter how shitty you feel about you, there's somebody that you matter to, that something you did made a difference to. Like, I don't know what the fuck else to say about this.
I think that's actually exactly where we should end, because I don't have anything to add to that.
I was gonna say that's the perfect spot.
Yeah, I think it's fucking great. So thank you for that.
So then, this is the point of the show where we normally like go in and advertise the things that we've done. So I have a book of poetry about poop that I put together with several friends of mine. That is absolutely marvelous. It's haiku, 7 perspectives in poetry. You can find it in all the usual, like Amazon and other places. Donna Monroe is part of it. Sarah Hans is part of it. My fucking dudes that were like students of mine, Connor Mudderman and Kate Ingram, that I knew when they were fucking 12 years old. They were weird ass motherfuckers. And they had some shit to bring. I got to see them like come into their own on this shit. Buy that, not for me. Buy it to see them. There's some good ass people involved in that. But then I also have like, if you want to see me being all weepy more, there are a couple other collections of poetry that I can't think of the name of them right now. But if you look up Anton Cancre, you can find that shit.
I love it. Don, do you want to do movie recommendations or not?
Yeah, so
I figured you might. Do you want me to go first? Because I'm
let me do this part that if you loved Everything Everywhere All at Once, you're definitely going to like any of these movies recommended by James, Anton, and myself. Go ahead, James.
So, I do a double feature thing. And I want to go in 2 directions here because I thought, multiple realities, right? So my first one is Parasite, because I truly believe that Parasite with this would just be fucking great, because it's just that feeling of these different lives that we live. And in Parasite, if you check out our episode, you'll know more. But, they go live fake lives, so to speak. And it leads to choices and how reality changes. And also, I just love Parasite, so I love pushing it anytime I can. And then I just think you should also watch Ratatouille because, you just should.
I believe it's called Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Not in my reality.
Look, I laughed. I said Ratatouille probably about 10 times yesterday. And I made some comment. I was like, oh, this is just like that movie Ratatouille. And my wife's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, God damn it, you didn't watch it with me. Shit. It's like Ratatouille. And that was my joke about Candace Owens and Tim Scott and Clarence Thomas.
I know. Anton, before Don lists his 37 choices.
36, you took Parasite.
Do you have any movies you'd like to recommend people watch if they enjoyed this?
So I still will always say, because when you're dealing with like nihilism, Cemetery Man or Del Morte Del Amore, whichever version, which is really fucking hard to find. So if you can't find it, just like call me up or contact me. I'll set up some kind of like virtual viewing of it because it's marvelous. But it's much more on the like whiny ass side of nihilism. So that movie works good with the nihilism end. The Butterfly Effect is another good one. But again, it ends up on the like, well, everything would be better if I was just not here at all. And it's very like Jesus and self-sacrificey. I don't know of another movie that deals with if the world could be different because of the decisions that I made is as positive as like, well, just fucking make some better decisions as this movie is.
All right, Don, go for it.
All right. I'm down to 36 because I had Parasite on my list. All right. So if you like this movie, which I can't imagine anybody not liking it, I could see someone getting confused. I could get my mom seeing it and saying, this wasn't real enough for me. I'm like, all right. So I'm going to go with a mix of horror, comedy, action, a little bit of everything. So first things first, Groundhog Day. The whole idea of fixing a mistake or at least going back and doing things. Nice. If I were to do a double feature, James, which I'm not, I would have this back to back with Jet Li's The One, because it's it's a great, I guess, exercise in understanding the multiverse or multiverses themselves and this whole idea of, as opposed to tapping into another you in a universe. As those members of your background, identity, whatever, die off, you get stronger, you get more powers. And the idea was to be the only version of you throughout the multiverse. Doctor Strange and the whatever it's called of madness. That's as much as I'm going to say.
I believe using your own words, that was multiverse.
Yes. Sorry to bother you. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man... No Way was it No Way Home? I can't remember which one it was. Whichever one was the last one where all the Spider-Man showed up. Back to the Future 2. I initially had the series down, but I'm going to go with Back to the Future 2. I had Big Trouble in Little China because if you love James Hong, I mean that's one of the best movies he's in, or at least one of his best performances. Promising Young Woman, What We Do in the Shadows, Kung Fu Hustle. I could not avoid being John Malkovich with the whole Ratatouille thing. Spontaneous, and as obvious as it may seem, The Matrix. And that's it. Nice. That's all I got.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Kung Fu Hustle?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna mention, because well before Spider-Man did the whole like crossing dimensions things in movies, there is, if you're willing to look it up, a video game from 2010, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, that is entirely what the like animated Spider-Man movie
Spider-Verse.
I can't think of the name. Yeah, that's it. Into the Spider-Verse. That's entirely what that did, but it was a good like decade earlier. And it's not a good game. Like, it's okay, but still, I will respect the fuck out of that game for having thought of doing that and crossing all those lines.
I never played it. Don, did you play it?
No, I did not.
I think it's only available on PS3, and now PS3 has cut down their ability to download games onto it, so you're just fucked.
Well, fine then. All right, man. Well, normally I would ask you about new projects, but you already did that. So, where can people find you on social?
So I'm Anton Cancre in like pretty much all of the social medias because nobody thought to misspell canker like I did. It's supposed to have K's involved, but it's the canker part is CANCRE. I'm the idiot in a dress that makes like pretty flowy things on my faces because I like to do that and I like to show off my titties.
And your amazing new shoes.
Oh yeah, I have glowy shoes now too. There's that.
I was so jealous. And then you were like, oh, I didn't mean to send that to you. And I was like, well, fuck you. I love your shoes. But yeah, no, I sincerely appreciate you doing this episode. And I'll be honest, when I first asked you, I was like, man, I don't know how he's going to live up to Silent Hill, but holy shit, great job.
Yes.
Okay then. Good for me on that.
Hell yeah.
I think I was slightly more coherent than I was on Silent Hill.
We all have our episodes. But yeah, we expect you back because you're a professional, god damn it. So
3 fucking pages of notes.
Amazing.
3 goddamn pages.
I literally only have an index card that says yin yang. So,
well, that was worth
pretend
the
to be a
price of
professional.
admission. So,
exactly. No. So I'll pretend to be a professional and say that I guess that wraps it up for now. As always, I am James Sabata.
and I'm Alpha Dawn.
Ooh. And we'll see you back here probably next week, but who the hell knows with me?